College football fans were poking the NCAA with a stick for the past 2 decades, saying, "Hey, are you guys going to do anything?" And the NCAA has done nothing. They've lost their shirt every which way possible in the court system. And now, with their organization basically on life support when it comes to college football, there seems to be a last gasp by the NCAA to finally do something. And the Big Ten commissioner, Tony Petitti, says, "Yeah, don't bother." What is all of this about? We're going to talk about it next here on the College Huddle. 87 independent podcasts from coast to coast, and you have landed on the mothership right here on YouTube for The College Huddle. Check out the website, thecollegehuddle.com. Make sure you hit that like button. It's free to do so. It's the nice thing to do, and I'm sure you're a nice human being, so please do that. Leave us a comment down in the comment section below. Let us know who you root for, where you're from, and what you think about this topic today. And of course, please consider subscribing to the channel if we have earned your subscription. All right, guys, let's get into it. So this is an interesting story to say the least. Um, Big Ten Commissioner Tony Petitti sent a formal letter. That's a strong, stern letter. A formal letter to the NCAA calling for an immediate pause on all tampering-related investigations and infractions. This move represents a major clash between one of the college football's most powerful conferences, that being the Big Ten, and the national governing body over how roster building is regulated in the modern era. Now, the NCAA, for the longest time in my lifetime, and yours more than likely, they were way, way too strict on things when it came to players and universities and recruiting and what's fair and equitable and all of that. They have lost all ability to basically enforce their own set of rules. And now all of a sudden, like I said, with their organization on life support when it comes to college football, they are making a last ditch effort to look or at least appear like they are a competent organization, especially when things like the U.S. government are now getting involved in President Donald Trump, however you feel about him, whether you like him or not. The U.S. government getting involved and Trump saying, I might just make an executive order. Now the NCAA all of a sudden seems to have come to life. This following, if you all recall, and what we've covered here on this channel, the Dabo Swinney story where he calls out Ole Miss for tampering with a player that they got in the transfer portal who was in class when the Ole Miss coach apparently sent him a message and said, "What's it going to take for you to come to Oxford, Mississippi?" That made Dabo Swinney really mad. Dabo Swinney brought receipts to a press conference and basically called out the NCAA and said, "What are you going to do about it?" Well, the NCAA finally woke up from their slumber, at least it seemed like it, and they wrote a really stern letter to every university in college football saying, "We are going to get uber aggressive when it comes to investigating tampering." And now all of a sudden, the president of one of the most powerful conferences in all of college football comes right back at him and says, "Really? No, I don't think you're going to do that." Now, what does all of this mean? Well, let's first explore the letter a little bit more that Petitti wrote, shall we? So, Petitti's letter argues that the current NCAA tampering rules, specifically bylaw 13.1.1.4, which prohibits contacting athletes at other schools without permission, are designed for a world that no longer exists. Does he have a point? Well, the key arguments in the letter include unworkable standards. The conference claims that the rules cannot be credibly or inequitably enforced because the landscape has shifted to include revenue sharing and direct player compensation following the 2025 House antitrust settlement. Petitti argued that current rules force athletes to take massive risks by entering the transfer portal without being able to gauge their market value through pre-portal communication. The letter warns that continuing to enforce these outdated rules risks further legal defeats in court. He's 100% right about that. Big Ten officials noted that tampering is so widespread that programs following the rules are essentially at a competitive disadvantage. He's also right about that. You talk to anybody who talks to anybody in college football, and what do they all say? Everybody's tampering on some level. Now, my experiences with the conversations I have had with people, most tampering takes place like this: someone in some program, whatever college football program you want to pick, a coach, position coach, a head coach, somebody contacts someone there at the program and says, hey, we watched this player, we played against this player, we've seen this player on film, we recruited this player, and he chose another school. Contact his agent for us and gauge his interest. It wasn't the coach or position coach that directly contacted the agent, nor did they directly contact the player. But an official of some form within the school contacts the agent and says, hey, so and so university might be interested. If he's interested, let us know. And that's how the game is mostly played, according to what I have been told. That way, the coach can say, you can look at my text messages, you can see my call list. I did not contact this player. However, as Petiti has laid out in this letter, it is definitely 100% widespread and going on. Now, the core of the dispute here is that the conflict stems from the NCAA's recent push to, quote unquote, crack down on tampering, right? Y'all remember that? We're going to crack down on tampering. That's what they said. Well, they can't crack down on just about much of anything, can they? In February last month, the NCAA sent a memo warning schools of significant penalties for unauthorized contact, just as the Big Ten observed that over 1,000 players entered the January portal window with do not contact tags. What? How did 1,000 players enter the transfer portal saying, don't contact me? Because they had already secured deals elsewhere. Meaning, those conversations took place long before they had left the school and entered the transfer portal. They were already tampered with. 1,000, on some degree, on some level, 1,000 players admitted, I've already been tampered with. And most of you who watch this video have a favorite school, and you could probably go down a list of stories about players on your current roster who admitted, yeah, I was contacted by so-and-so school. Tampering is so widespread. Yet, you think this guy and his handful of jolly good men in Sherwood Forest are somehow going to right all the wrongs of college football? Yes, I've got waterfront property to sell you in the state of Arizona. Oceanfront property. I got oceanfront property to sell you in the desert, my friends. That ain't happening. It's not. As much as I would like to see tampering be taken care of and fixed in college football, they have opened the door to it. They have welcomed it in, is what Petiti is basically saying here. You guys welcome this in by the crazy rules. You can leave any school you want whenever you want. The NCAA did this to themselves. That's what Petiti's basically saying. He's basically saying, so why are you even trying? You're going to come down on one school, two schools, a handful of schools when everybody's doing it? How are you going to do that? How is that fair and equitable and justifiable to do it that way? What, because Dabo Swinney said something? Are you going to go hard at Ole Miss? What about all the tampering LSU did? What about all the tampering Texas did? What about all the tampering that Miami did? Are you going to come down on those three schools, or are they too big and powerful and good and you need them? See, there's a lot of questions to be asked here from a lot of different angles. And whether you like Tony Petitti or not, his letter to the NCAA basically just says, you can't do it. You can't do it. It's impossible. Now, a lot of us college football fans would love to see the NCAA take care of tampering. We hate it. I hate it. But to sit here and think that this guy is somehow going to clean that up is asinine. And the people who believe that BS literally have believed everything the NCAA has fed them for the better part of 3 decades now when it comes to college football. So I don't believe it for a hot second. So the Big Ten demands a pause in all investigations until rules are modernized for a professionalized landscape. The Big Ten is not coming out here and saying, no, let us tamper. What the Big Ten is saying is you need to clean up your rule books first. The NCAA plans to continue enforcement, which means they aren't doing jack, stating that any moratorium or pause would require a board vote. Whatever. As far as other conferences, the ACC and Big 12 both came out and said we oppose a pause, with leaders stating that they want to see current rules enforced. Sure. I mean, again, we all would, but the NCAA can't. The SEC previously called for stronger enforcement against tampering just months prior, but they've been kind of quiet here. Why? Because news has gotten out that the SEC is starting to say, hey, Big Ten, maybe we should just go do this ourselves. And maybe that's what all of this is about. It's worth to note that Petitti and the NCAA kind of have a past already. Back in 2025, he wrote a letter to the NCAA saying, guys, I've already punished Michigan enough, so kind of lay off them a little bit here. And then Michigan went ahead, or excuse me, the NCAA went ahead and did their own investigation in Michigan and ended up basically slapping Michigan on the wrist and handing most of the form of punishment to Jim Harbaugh, who had already left, and collecting a check from Michigan. And that's been my stance all along on this, is that I believe the NCAA is doing this for one reason and one reason only. It's to collect money from universities. And this guy's job, when it comes to the 18 schools that call the Big Ten home, is to protect those universities. And that's exactly what he tried to do by calling out the NCAA's BS when it comes to tampering. Let me know what you guys think down in the comment section below. This is an interesting story. It's not going to be going away anytime soon. And especially if the Big Ten and the SEC get together and say, we out of here, the NCAA is in big time trouble. Have a great day. We'll be back with more college football content for you right here on the College Huddle.